Clarification about it, if I understand where we're going. How many of you here understand that everything that you purchase is counted? So now, how many of you know why it's that way? But that's where the confusion is. I don't understand why it's that way. Bottom line is that in the years between 1930, by the way, this is only years, remember, you still a CD tomorrow with legal references. It's going to have copies from books, manual, facts in the law. You're going to get like the Banker's Manifesto. That's something, if I get a chance, I'll say what bankers have. When I say bankers, I don't mean every banker out there. Your local community banker might be a great man. Doubt it, he might be. Guys that are in the upper echelon of these banks are corrupt to the core. If they're not corrupt to the core, they don't make it there. And it's impossible. You have to be corrupt to get there, because that's the only people they allow to get in those positions. Because the banks have one thing in mind, and that is to take your wealth, period. Give a chance, I'll read that page from the Banker's Manifesto. It'll blow your mind. What they really think. They think of us as cattle. They think of us as just things out here for their sport and their benefit. Bottom line is the prepaid account came into being in the years 1933 through 50. Government went bankrupt. Well, that was the third bankruptcy. Well, the last one either bankrupt. Because they went bankrupt, then they had to come up with collateral to reorganize the national debt that was due. And they didn't have enough collateral, so they had to come up with a plan. Two prior bankruptcies, they had already mortgaged all of the public lands in America, and they had to have more collateral to reorganize. Isn't that the way it works? If you go down to mortgage, now either one or two things. If you can't pay off your balloon payment, they either want more collateral than you had before, or they will raise your interest rate. The way loans work, banks work. So you can elect to do one or two things. You can put money down and keep your interest rate low, or you can add additional collateral, or you can raise the interest rate. Now, the same thing works for nations, so it's not much different. They had to have collateral to reorganize the national debt because they couldn't pay it and refinance it. What they did is they took the private property of all American people and put it up for collateral without their permission. Every home, every automobile, you got a fast boat, you got anything that carries a title is mortgaged for the national debt, period. That wasn't enough to cover, so they had to come up with another idea, and they mortgaged you. They created a title on you and mortgaged that as well. Called a birth certificate. I'm sure there was some,
but not with this restrictions.
Not the way they are now. I'm sure there have been birth certificates for hundreds of years. Used to, prior to that, in fact, how many of you have seen like your grandparents or great-grandparents' family Bibles? What did they have? They had a birth and death record. That's where people's names were recorded, their date of their birth and the date of their death, and that was the birth and the death records. You know that those will hold up in a court of law. Absolutely will hold up in a court of law. But they mortgaged your birth certificate and they mortgaged all of your personal property. Now, how many of you know when you buy a vehicle today, if you went out today and bought a vehicle and you registered it with the state, what do they send you? I mean, to pay cash for it. To pay cash for it. They send you a certificate of title. And in Florida, in particular, I can't say for all states, but it says on the title, or certificate when you get back from the state, that there are other liens or possible liens against that credit. It's fine credit, of course. They sell the title to that car. Actually, they bundle them in bondage, is what they do. And they create a bond based on the value of those vehicles. They actually monetize that and put it into trade. So even if you paid cash for your vehicle, you turn around and gave it to the state, and they put another mortgage on it. Okay. So because of that, the Supreme Court said, whoa, Congress, we got a problem here. And the Senate, they created some laws. One of those was the 43rd Senate document. Senate document number 43, the 73rd Congress, first session. Says, under the new law, money is issued worth 100 cents on the dollar because it is backed by the credit of the nation. It would represent a mortgage on all the homes and other property of all the people in the nation, which lawfully belongs to these private citizens. I have the Senate document. Document number 43. You got a copy of this?
Okay.
So in other words, they illegally mortgaged our property.
Right.
And we acquiesced.
And the Supreme Court said, wait a minute, guys, you can't do that. Because the 14th Amendment says, no private property can be taken without due process of law, period. They said, well, what do we do? And they said, well, you got to give them a remedy. Give them a remedy makes it legal. So they decided, okay, well, we'll give them a remedy. And so we will give them the authority as private bankers, part of a national banking association, to discharge all of their debts with a note. Yes. You ever heard the old saying, the ignorance of the law is no excuse? Well, it's in the law. If you ever get a chance, you can get your hands on a 1979 Title 12 United States Code. 1979 is the best I've ever seen. It absolutely lays it out. Now, when I take this to court, those lawyers say, oh, that's that old law. That's that old law. That stuff don't apply anymore. Give me a copy of the law that overturned it. They repealed it. Because they say, well, yeah, it was repealed. HJR 192 was repealed. Yeah, it was codified in Title 31, United States Code. And I can tell you what section. Codified in Title 31, United States Code, 3123 and 31 U.S.C. 5103. And it was also placed into public law 7310. This is all over the district. Bottom line I'm trying to tell you is that Congress had to give us a remedy or they would be found guilty of theft, collusion, corruption, all kind of fraud and treason against the people. That's the only thing they could do. They didn't have any choices. Now, does that mean that all this stuff was insidious and evil? No, it doesn't. Congress was put to a difficult task, collapsing the economy of a nation and restoring it. They probably did the best they could do. But at some time later, it became insidious and wicked and evil because it was used for the wrong purposes. How many of you know when the first Social Security cards came out that was the first debit card?
Like I remember.
Well, it was intended for you to take it down to the local car dealership and give them that number, and they were supposed to give you a card. And the first batches of cards that went out, they put instructions in them, and people didn't understand how to read the legalese because the average person in America could barely read and write. They didn't understand legal language. But a few of them did, and a few of them used them that way. 1938, I believe. 35, I'm sorry, 1935. Okay. And they were intended to be debit cards because everything was prepaid. And that was your debit card. You're supposed to take that. Well, everybody stuffed them in their wallet. They go around and say, hey, man, I got this Social Security card. They take them out, walk around, went back to work, just like they all did. They didn't understand. And so, people in charge said, well, we told them. All we have to do is let them know. We haven't got to explain it to them. And so the people didn't understand. So they just carried the Social Security cards around in their wallet. Never used them. So Congress just looked at everybody and smiled. They went go right on down that path of ignorance. They never told them that they were prepaid anymore. That whatever you wanted in Congress was already paid for because we collateralized your property illegally. And we had to give you a remedy. So that's why everything is prepaid in Congress. That thing, another thing. How many of you have credit cards? You know that when that credit card, and I confirmed this with a big shot and walked over to a bank. I asked him point blank, and he answered yes. He said, it is true. He works actually not too far. I asked him, I said, I've been told that every time that y'all approve a credit card application, that $2 million is removed from my first pay truth. He said, yes, it is. Why are we paying a credit card? Why should we pay a credit card? First of all, it's not a legal contract to begin with. Second of all, it's already paid for. Unsecured debt. What bank loans unsecured money? Anybody know any bank that loans unsecured? Everybody in the room. Well, does it make sense to you now? Stop and use your common sense. Don't think with that brain that they programmed you with. for just a moment, stop and think about this. Why would a bank give you money to go out here and get stuff that was consumable if there's no possible way they can get reimbursed? They've been reimbursed when you sign that application. They got your signature. Think about this. I mean, it makes sense. They would never give you an unsecured loan. Bankers don't give unsecured loans. How's that? Bankers can't loan you money to begin with. So they're giving you your own credit. Charging you a fee to use your own credit. Isn't that smart? Are we bringing what? If it's old bill of goods, guys, and you need to understand. And I want you to study, and I want you to prove me wrong. For those of you that don't believe what I'm saying, I want you to go study this stuff. I gave you the documents. I'm giving you legal references. You can spend the next 2 months studying this stuff to prove me wrong. And then if you do find that I'm wrong, please come and tell me, and I will apologize in front of the whole group. Document that I'm wrong. Not been proven wrong yet. Oh, your water's sharp, buddy. He's my buddy.
Well, I'll start studying.
516.
You, the payee. Mortgage company, the payer.
How do I get that?
IRS.gov.
5016.
Good stuff.
5016. 45016. Mortgage company is after they collected, when you make your mortgage, they give you $. You gave them $12,000 all year to play. When I discovered that, I was like, what you're saying.
That's the 1096 that goes with that is the intra form.
Here.
Registered to
They're
be
blank.
then you need to
They're
approve
not
the
recording.
IRS.
That's what it says. Commit crime. The bottom line is that is why things are prepaid for in Congress. Never change prepaid in Congress. You've already paid for it. You pay for it when you sign your name. Doesn't matter what it is. It matters not.
Your authorization to them.
That's right. You're authorizing them to cap your account. Yes.
What do you think is a better approach to take care of acceptance for value or points?
You can do it either way, and we've had success both ways, but I prefer to send a note. The reason I'm going to send a note is because I've got a paper trail, and now I can make them responsible, call them on a negative averment, and take their stuff. Because the law is very clear on notes.
You're giving them a chance to commit fraud.
Absolutely. I'm saying, this is breadcrumb. Remember?
Yeah, they're going to give them a chance.
I like
We
breadcrumbs.
should have watched our kids tapping their pigeons when they were kids. Or your cookies, actually.
And then if they dishonor the consular, then they committed a fraud in Congress, dishonoring Congress, and you can come and take their stuff. That's where the negative averments come in. Gary, you have a question? Work on a few. I don't generally use it. I've had some success with it. I prefer the notes is what I do simply because of the paper trail and because I can prove that it was discharged with a note. The law plainly says, I'll read this open statement, and I'm not going to get too much into this paragraph to you before we move on. That's Title 12. Those who constitute an association nationwide of private, unincorporated persons. Who are private, unincorporated persons?
Third party.
Secured party creditors, absolutely. Engaged in the business of banking to issue notes against these obligations of the United States due them. What? Obligations due them? Wow. Whose private property is at risk to collateralize the government's debt currency by legal definitions, a national banking association. You know that you're part of a national banking association. You'll go read the 1979 Title 5. 5 or more natural persons who were involved in issuing notes in commerce is a national banking association. More than 5 of us?
Oh, yeah.
Millions of us. So you're part of a national banking association just by being a private banker and issue notes. I didn't make this stuff up. Read it to you. Such notes issued against these obligations of the United States to that part of the public debt due its principals are required by law to be accepted as legal tender. Now, how many of y'all been getting those notes from these banks? We can't accept that as legal tender.
Yes.
Legal tender of payment for all debts and are defined in law as obligations of the United States on the same part and category with Federal Reserve notes and other currency and legal Title 12. It's in your notes, in the disc we're going to give you.
And when year is Title 12?
I'm sorry?
Well, we have Title 5 in 1979.
Title 12 is 1979. They do a Title 12 review every year, or every sub-year.
But the 1979 Title 12.
They do amendments to it and all that kind of stuff. But 1979 Title 12 is the greatest because it explains the whole process. Now, it goes on, there's 13 pages, and I'm not going to dwell on that. I just want to let you know, I didn't make this stuff up. It's in law, I didn't make it up. It says we can do this stuff. Write notes. This particular class is stage 2, so those of you who haven't been to the regular seminar, you really are behind the 8 ball. You need to go to the regular seminar and listen to all of this stuff that shows you what you can and can't do. It's important to understand all of that. I've recapped some of it today, but I go in a lot more detail. Okay, but the bottom line is this. By issue a note, they're bound and obligated to accept it and discharge my debt. That's what the law says. That's simple. So when I issue a note, they got 30 days. On commercial code gives them 30 days. They don't respond with what is called a notice of deficiencies. They acquiesce. I have discharged you. They're not even allowed to. Did you know during that 30-day period, they're not even allowed to bill you? They're not even allowed to bill you or try any kind of collections on that.
So that's fraud as soon as they bill you.
Absolutely. Within the 30 days, they can't even bill you for that debt or try to collect that debt in any that 30-day period while they're doing the discharge. After the 30th day, it is discharged whether they like it or not. So if the law says that, stop.
Regarding that,
That's the gray area, I'm not sure.
Good question.
that happens a lot.
Well, and that may be a problem.
They will
Well, it's not really an issue in a sense because we're going to default anyway. What we try to do, and I've talked to this many times, is people say, well, when I send in a note, should I stop payment? I say, well, I don't. Simply because I don't want to get thrown out of my house. If I keep paying the payments to stay in my house or I keep my lights turned on because I continue to make payments, that doesn't negate their responsibilities. They were required to discharge the debt and they didn't in the 30 days.
So the sender of the note,
Yes.
with,
Helps.
now if you do it for the note,
You're negative.
which was,
Your note, yeah. Sure. Well, okay. If you owe Jay $100 and I walk up and pay Jay the $100 for you, do you still owe the $100? No, but what I'm saying though is if and then he bills you for the $100, who's at fault? It's not going to negate his responsibility for the note at all. No way.
you have the right to come against him.
Oh, absolutely.
Does that have any recourse on me?
Make absolutely count.
Yeah.
But anyway, for non-payment. Anyway, the bottom line is this. Have the right. And because Congress gave us the right to issue notes to discharge debts, and these banks are not wanting to accept them, do I care? I hope and pray to God they don't accept mine. Because I'm going to take their stuff. And their stuff is worth more than my note. And I promise you, you can. We already own 2 banks. Right now. We own those banks. And they're screaming because we got them tied up so tight they can't work. They can't operate.
Say you own them, do you?
Yes, I do. But my lien. Yeah, that's the first part, yeah. But I have sold my lien. Well, do you want me to tell you how much I was offered for my lien on that
Please.
bank trustee? Now listen, I can show you the contract.
Tell me.
You know how much I was offered? $10 billion with a B. Dollars per week for 10 years. All you get. Now, they ledger it as an asset in an offshore account, and they make money on it. And these high-yield accounts routinely double in a week's time, 7 days, 50. They guarantee 25% of the real value every 7 days. I only get half that. then I have sharing partners, so I'm only going to get about $2.5 billion a week. That's the best I can do. And this started off with a $2.3 million mortgage. Originally, it was $2.3 million mortgage that they dishonored. They dishonored my note. I sent to pay the mortgage, and they didn't accept it, even though the bank said it was verified. And they said they weren't going to give me credit for it. The lawyer told me, he said, yeah, so what? We verified the note, we're still not going to give you credit. So in other words, you're going to steal my note. He said, pretty much. Thank you very much.
Record that?
Oh, well, I didn't record it, but I had witnesses. It was $17.6 billion originally, but I made an error, and I was told by an accounting firm that it was more like $50 billion. I had an error in my math. I'm from Alabama. Oh yeah, mine's growing right now. Under the original $17.6 billion, it was $340 million a month. And I figured it out, and it was over $1 billion a month. I don't know. Not joking, folks. This stuff is valuable. Yeah. If you don't have any bars, I'll give it to you. No, really. I'm not joking. I'm telling you the truth. Now, I don't have the money yet, but I got an agreement to get the money. And that's where it starts. And everybody says, well, you haven't been paid yet? No, I haven't been paid yet. We're going to get paid.
How long do they have to fulfill the
6 months.
6 months?
6 months to fulfill the contract. If they don't fulfill the contract, I'm released from the agreement. I don't do open-ended agreements.
So you can do another negative.
Well, I don't need to. Then I'm going to go to the Chapter 7 liquidation. The only problem I have in my case with the Chapter 7 liquidation is the bankruptcy court that I'd have to liquidate. So what do you do about that?
That's pretty funny.
I have to go to a different state to liquidate the bankruptcy court in Alabama. Now, and these things are powerful, I'm telling you about. They really are powerful. Now, you guys ever get hold of this, and can I see from my perspective, oh, my niece is coming along. She's starting to see it. Now, it sounds bizarre to you right now, and some of you say, this guy is a nut. Wrong.
The question for many of us, the problem is if they
That's what I'm going to show you how to do. No, there is no win until you get paid. You don't get paid, you didn't win. And I'm going to show you how to settle this thing and close it out in just over 2 months. I do that. The bankruptcy part, I don't actually do. I'm going to describe it to you, and I'll tell you how to get all the stuff and all that kind of stuff if you're interested in that. Bankruptcy is particularly about to. But what we are going to do is we're going to make the forms available to show you how to fill them out online. That's something I'll be working on this week. 4 pages. Paper. 4 forms that you fill out. Have to show the fourth bankruptcy. So what you got to have, you need 3 creditors. There are some exceptions to that. I'm not going to go into all that. I still, if it was me, I would have 3 creditors. About how much their interest is. Or the negative averment process, we're going to talk in detail about these things tomorrow, step by step how to do this. Cover some stuff on it today. Bottom line is, you got to understand that you can do this stuff. And you got the law behind you to do it. You got to get that part. So we've been a lot of reading material, and I loaded a bunch of stuff on there. A lot of good stuff about admiralty law, and about the bankers, and about the judge's bench book, and all these kind of things that you need to deal with. Take on these giants, they're not going to be nice to you. That's why I recommend that you have multiple claimants, because where they'll trash you by yourself in a court, 50 people, they're not going to trash. They're afraid of people. Because 50 people can do affidavits against that judge for abusive process and unethical violent misconduct. So they'll come after him on a criminal charge, where one person is just sitting there and they're not going to get any results from that. But I promise you, if a judge gets 50 affidavits, somebody pay attention to that. Crime, and they know that. The last one I got thrown off the bench with 12 affidavits down in Panama City, Florida, just recently. Very powerful judge, Paul. She's no good with getting 50 people. That's where we come. And we're going to give you, I'll give you the number right now. I want you to keep this number. Very important number. This is the number of my office. Don't call expecting to talk to me at this number, because our office won't be there. Okay. Now, if you were interested in things with the public, the militias, or the assemblies, you want to talk to Warren. Bankruptcy banker, he's a retired banker, now banker. And so he understood a lot of things already, and he's helped me understand a few things. But when he first met me, he started asking me questions, and I'm great friends. And when he got in trouble with the foreclosure on the radio station, he was forced into foreclosure. I learned a lot in that process, how to do some of this stuff. So really, everybody got great favor about foreclosure because they forced us to learn. Foreclosure. Well, they're forcing him into a Chapter 7, trying to now, but we were still bucking him on that. But unfortunately, he went ahead and voluntarily went into a Chapter 11. Forced foreclosure, stopped it, and he got the jump on. And he's a very knowledgeable man about all this stuff. As a result, we won. He asked me, he said, he didn't know much about what we were doing at the time, but he knew a little bit about banking and foreclosures and bankruptcy and all that kind of stuff. So what we did is I tendered a note to discharge his debt. He called me on a Friday morning and said, Tim, they're going to sell the radio station next Tuesday. Anything you can do to help. Doesn't like having lots of time to work. Friday, we're talking about Tuesday. So I worked real hard and got everything in place and discharged. And it presented in court to an attorney. Hired to present it. Held them up for months. Process, and finally, eventually, 3 or 4 months later, they and agreed to sell the station regardless, even though I contended the note, and that's what caused the negative averment. That's under my note. I did the negative averment, and they didn't respond. And so I defaulted them and placed a $17.6 lien against attorneys, 4 law firms, a bank and communications company, and some law officers. About 15 liable liens, I guess, up there are. Their assets are astronomical. They even have a lien against the Alabama State Capital Fund, which is $27.5 billion because of the acts of their officers. The state is ultimately responsible. Assets of the state are on the table. That's why I have real assets behind my lien. Did all that with the negative averment process. And when I show you how simple it is, about half of you will say there's no possible way that'll work. I'm telling you it does. In fact, it works because it's so simple. It abides by natural law, and it's absolutely, this process has been checked by lawyers, judges in this country and internationally, and every single one of them said, this thing is airtight. They cannot be. Actually, it was the day that we're supposed to set it. I issued yes. And back off when he got my note. I put it on hold. And then he said, I'm going to give you 10 days to prove that this note is good. And I said, oh, no, you got it mixed up. I gave you a good note. You've got 30 days to prove it's not. One of the hearings, I was out of town, and Jack came in late at 3 o'clock in the morning probably. And Jack said, we got a hearing tomorrow. And I said, Jack, I'm going to be in so late. I said, it's not a real important hearing. It's just a follow-up thing. We'd already done everything we needed to do, but we just needed somebody to show up so we could forward. So he went down and did it, and he said, talking, he said, I wasn't there, and he just went in and took care of everything for us. Yeah, we were co-partners and stuff. So, one of the attorneys mentioned my name. Said the judge went just like this. For about 10 or 15 seconds, he gritted his teeth, his face turned red, he followed up, clenched his fist. Then when he got finished, he said, I'll have no more of that in my court. He told me, he said, he really likes you. Yeah.
At the top of his list,
Had a lot of fun with him down there in that court. Y'all just many times. Going to court is kind of like going to Disney World. Guaranteed the Disney's going to be there every time. Yeah, I heard something about that. Yeah, they're using ours for a precedent case, but they're using this process. What they tried to tell the guy was right here is proof that this stuff don't work. The lawyer said, the guy called it, he pointed it out. Judge in his decision said, these liens should be dismissed. Because they have no merit in law. And they read that, and the guy stopped him and he said, well, he said, see here, the judge dismissed those liens. No. He said, it says they should go ahead and read, because he already knew about the case. He said, go ahead and read it, and let's read the rest of it. It says, however, and he read it, he gives this big old blather scath of how we're doing illegal stuff, and we fraud and all that. I mean, this judge just didn't get some bricks. telling us all this kind of stuff. But the last little sentence was classic. It says, however. However, that's a big word. However, I cannot give these attorneys injunctive relief. What's the truth? The decision was he couldn't release them. Claiming they're no basis in law. They have no basis in fact or law. They're bogus and they're frivolous and all this kind of stuff. Well, why didn't he dismiss them then? He said they should be dismissed, and they were trying to tell him that's precedent that shows that these liens were dismissed, but they were not dismissed. And the guy was smart enough to catch that. I believe he won his case, didn't he? Lowered his foot on it because he had talked to me, and he knew what time he was in one of my classes. So the lawyer wasn't real happy when he finished it up for him. Shit, dismissed the lien. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. We have a precedent case. I love it. Now we're going to be able to use this case in your case now because they're already quoting it as a precedent, so can we. I'm sure that we can find it. The case is called, and then what's the, y'all have to excuse me. Sometimes I have these moments. What's the site? We look that stuff up on. Yeah. Having a hard time remembering that today. Phone name, can't think of it. Have a name tag. We'll think of it. We'll tell you where to find it. Some of you guys know where you look up this court case. What's all these federal court cases? You can look them up on Pacer. Remember, save a life. Pacer.com. Yeah, Pacer. Just Google up Pacer. You can look at the name of the court case. You Google. You go in there, find the Pacer, and take it to the site, and it'll ask you the name of the case, and it'll come right up. You can read all those documents. Okay, that's what I'm going to tell you. Okay. It's the Commercial Bank of Enterprise, Alabama versus Josie Park Broadcasting. Commercial Bank of Enterprise, Alabama versus Josie Park Broadcasting. Josie, Josie, Park, P-A-R-K, Broadcasting. That's my buddy's company. Name of the case, you can go in there and look. What an interesting case. If you get a hold of Jack's letter where he told the judge they were complaining because they didn't understand this admiralty and we were not in the admiralty, we were on land and everything. And Jack responded back to the judge and said, we are in admiralty, and as a result of that, because you have committed a dishonor in commerce, you must walk the plank. Really classic. He told the judge he had to walk the plank. He is a very creative writer. Jack and I have a good relationship. I'm the bulldog and he's like a French poodle. He takes what I give him and he finesses it a little bit. But here lately I've been rubbing off on him a little bit. He's been good to listen. He's starting to enjoy this. Yeah, yes. Well, I'm done. I won. There's no question. I'm investigator. So, he's a law enforcement officer, Highway Patrol, California. He's very knowledgeable in law.
Is that cases?
We won the case. I mean, there's no question. Bottom line is what I'm telling you. I'm going to show you the process that we use and how simple it really is. Now, most of you have played in equity court, like you read, and created enough fire starters to last you the rest of your life.
You got it.
And never got a solution. Get solution. Closure. I just read just what, and he's bringing this thing to closure. Don't win because they violated his rights. Fraud and all kinds of nasty things. And closure is going to win. Take a lot of stuff. What we need to do. But I'm going to show you all these. We're going to talk about these negative verdicts, and I don't want to show you a scenario how that you can take charge of these banks and the IRS and all of these agencies out here that are hammering you unmercifully, breaking the law.
Tim, I came here for what I came to was and I remember Alabama, and I just couldn't get through my head Texas apparatus. I thought, surely they're going to pay this thing, you know. All their 16 from out 8, 39.49.
That was the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, you think, well, sooner or later they're going to be smart enough to pay honor this note. And you know, I haven't gotten anything back personally. Some of the people I've done things for, they got a letter back saying this is illegal.
Yeah, we got all kinds of responses.
And now I sent out 10 negative payments. This week I sent out 2 first demands.
Jim, you enjoyed this a little too much.
No,
They don't think you can do anything about it. They have ruled for so long, they think that their friend in the black dress can save them every time. And those guys down in Alabama thought that too.
When I make it, this deal works, and they will act with it.
I had about 30 or 40 maybe guys showed up for that hearing that day. And when we got out of there, they just told me, they said, did you see? They said, they looked like they were about to faint. All the color drained down their faces when the judge, they thought their friend in the black dress was going to save them until that. And they realized how bad a shape they were in. All that time, they thought there was nothing you could really do. Well, we got this guy where he's going to take care. He's going to dismiss this bogus stuff, and there's nothing you can do. Blah, blah, blah. They don't believe that today. They hadn't told, I bet they hadn't told the wife the rest of the story because the judge probably left. Because I even own her diamond ring. I do. This is serious stuff. It really is. It's that powerful. Now, I have a number of options. What I want to do is sell the lien, and we have a contract to do that, as I told you. We find it. Actually, we don't sell it. We just lease it for 10 years. We get it back 10 years and boom. They use it for 10 years. Because this lien's good for 50 years. There's nobody on the planet that can dismiss it. Yeah, they've offered me $10 billion a week. $10 billion. The company gets half. Just do it. The original lien was $17.6 billion, but it's gone wrong. So they made me sign a non-disclosure agreement. Tell you the details. But I will tell you this: is that when you get your lien done, we have sources that are stepped in case. I've got the lien. This case has got popular across the country. But I had a buddy did a negative affirmative in a case up in North Carolina, and one of the officers of the court mentioned my name, and the judge and the prosecuting attorney went ballistic. This is that Turner stuff. Yeah, they know they're in trouble. They already know. Same got mentioned. Like they went nuts. They know they're going to have another list. Bottom line is I'm going to teach you how to do this. Believe me, I understand it for you. I want y'all to understand something about me. God sent me here to help you. This didn't come, I didn't get this from somebody else, contrary to popular belief. Got this with a lot of study, a lot of research, and a lot of prayer. God showed me some of the stuff. In fact, I had a guy that came down to see me. He's actually a friend of the Rockefeller family. He asked me this. He said, he told Billy Ray, he said, I don't care how much it costs. I want to talk to him for 2 hours. He said, I'll pay him in gold. He didn't care how much it cost. I want 2 hours private session with him. So he said, I got some questions. He said, won't you know up front, I'm a friend of J. Rockefeller. He said, I've got some questions I want to ask you. He said, He said, will you answer them? I said, yeah. I asked him questions and started getting that stuff. Well, honestly, God revealed some of it to me. He said he had to because nobody else knows. That's insider information nobody knows. I know. He said, yeah, obviously, you just told me. So, we had a quite interesting conversation. And I like to go. Actually, didn't charge him. He just kept it something. Bottom line is the stuff that I put together here, put out there for the general public. You don't need people run your life for you. Take control of your life for you. You need to take the ball and get it in your court and do your own life. Run your own life. Put it in your. We let other people control our lives, and as a result, we've let them steal our wealth. You are immensely wealthy. Every American is a billionaire, folks. Literally. I'm not joking. There's one account in Europe for the secured party creditor in America that's over $118 trillion. One. There are many others. It exists. Yes, it's in there. It's in foreign money. Well, it exists as much as anybody does. It's all on paper. But isn't that the way the world runs? But the bottom line is this, is that the American people are extremely wealthy. Congress has stolen your wealth. In many cases, they've used it for their own private gain, for dummy corporations that they set up. Congress, yes. Congressional people in Congress for the most part, are nothing more than common thieves. Listen, do you know how they do all this stuff? Why do you think it costs so much money to run our government? They set up corporations, and of course now they're at arm's length, you can't tell they're part of it. It might be their family or a friend, relation, and owns the corporation. They're just kind of a silent partner, and they just receive funds over here in a blind trust somewhere. Huh? Yeah, absolutely. And they'll go out and they'll come up with an invention or something, you know. Have you ever wondered who makes these little mile markers on the roof? Can you imagine how many billions of dollars? I passed so many of them, I got, oh my goodness. Now they're doing an eighth of a mile. A tenth of a mile. You know, they used to do it 1 mile, and then they got to do a half mile, and now they're doing down to a tenth of a mile in some places. Wonder why? Yeah, I wonder why would they do tenth of a mile? Why is it important? Exactly, because some congressman's relative or friend or some associate has got a company somewhere that makes certain things, and they got to keep them working to make money. If you can see how much they pay for one, then things fall off your chair. And that's honest to God how things work. And of course they get their little contribution sent to an offshore account somewhere. And that's why you don't have any money in this country. How many of you remember General Dynamics back in the 80s? Well, I happen to know the principal of General Dynamics because he's my wife's great uncle. Come to see him. His name is Ray Scherer is his name. He's on the controlling interest in General Dynamics. He flew from Detroit, Michigan to see me one time. He came down to see me. He said, Tim, you're a pretty smart guy. He said, I don't have a son to take over my business. And he said, I'm 80 years old. Or 79, no, he was 80 years old. And I don't have anybody in my family that's smart enough to take over this business. Well, I smell something fishy to start with. But I was born at night. So I sat there and let's talk about an hour, talk about what he wanted to do for me, and I never heard of this fellow until just a few days before that. Never talked to him until that day. Why? And I kept saying in my mind, why does this guy want to help me? So he told me, he said, I'm the CEO and controlling stockholder of General Dynamics. He said, you know, that's the company that makes the $100 hammers and the $200 toilets that you can go. That kind of stuff. I want to offer you he offered me $100,000 a year job. I'm going to give you a commission that's going to exceed that. He said, you'll make more than that in commissions. Wow. I said, this is kind of down working for $40,000 a year. And I thought it was hard. I was going to get me an office job. I was sitting in an air-conditioned office making $500,000 a year. Finally, he kept on telling me all about it and said, what's the catch? Well, he said, well, Uncle Ray, I appreciate you coming down and talking to me and all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to have to decline your offer. What? You're going to decline a job like this? I said, yes, sir. I made an honest living all my life, and I feel old change. But I didn't jump on a job like that because I'm just bored working here. You sure you won't change your mind? I said, no, sir. You change your mind. All you need to do is check it up. So he got up to leave, and this is the God's honest truth. Walked up to me and he said, I want to shake your hand. Never shook the hand of an honest man. And he lived, I never heard from him again. His nephew called me and asked me about the job one more time. A couple of weeks later, and I told him, no, I don't want to take the job. Well, I knew something was fishy. I knew something wasn't right with this thing, so I couldn't take it. But the bottom line was, it wasn't what was in the 81 or something like that later. They started coming out with all this scam that General Dynamics was doing on the government. What he wanted me to do, I don't even need a fall guy. He knew it was coming, and he wanted somebody to blame it on. That's all that was about. And I probably went to prison for 147 years or something like that if I'd have took that job. Lord warned me not to take that thing for some reason. And later on, it was a few years before I knew why, but then I figured out what it was about. So the bottom line is pay attention. There's a lot of scams go on. What I'm telling you here is not a scam, folks. This is actual fact. I want you to study and research. The stronger you're going to be for the process. And I guarantee it. A lot of people, I was one of them, took these guys 3 years to get me to even look at this process because they told me a bunch of scam artists trying to get somebody out of something I didn't understand. And finally, after 3 years of trying to get me to look at it, I finally decided I would. Well, I'm glad I did. right? And we're gonna just go through it a little bit. Tomorrow, we're gonna go through these step by step, bit by detail. Take you through, there's 9 formats on my disc, on the disc I'm gonna give mortgage foreclosures. I mean, not mortgage, but for all kinds of stuff. Criminal, civil, administrative, in court, out of court. Got a variation. So there's 9 different ones. They're formatted to give you an idea of how to write it. And if you don't want to write one for yourself, if you'll call Jack at that number, Jack will help you write, and he does charge to do it. Charges to do it. He also, I talked to him about this the other day, I said, Jack, I said, what about people that they don't really want to do that? They just, well, he said, I'll do it. So he started last week reviewing negative affirmance. If you want to write it, he will do a critique on it and tell you what you need to do to fix it if there's anything wrong with it. Has a question, he calls me. A lot of them I actually, when I'm in the office, get to look at. Get them and review them and check them. And sometimes all of them that way. But the ones that are may have a couple of extra. There is help out there. So take advantage of the help. I'm going to teach you how step by step how to do it yourself. Mortgage foreclosure, one of the best things that you can do is not in court. If it's a non-judicial state where they don't go to court, they just do trustee sales and that sort of thing. Get it in court. The best way to do that is in bankruptcy. There are a lot of elements about bankruptcies that you need to understand. Put it in bankruptcy, the other party has to file what is known as a B-10 form. 10. That's B-10. Claim. Yes, foreclosure or bankruptcy. They're supposed to file a B-10 proof of claim, yes.
Even after this one.
If you bring this into bankruptcy for them,
I've got to sit on it.
they got to do. The B-10 is the form that they put in there to provide a proof of claim. If you list them as a creditor on your bankruptcy, you've got to bring forward the B-10.
You've already sold your property.
Oh yes, if you could, and it depends on some factors. Did you contest the claim?
No.
Acquiesced, you probably really can't do much. That's why
I did acquiesce
acquiescence
the foreclosure.
probably they can consider that their agreement. That one you can do that.
Even if,
Fraud was involved, you acquiesced. If you would have protested it, yes, you could.
okay.
And don't acquiesce in stuff. If you don't know what to do with it, protest. Yes, can we pass the mic around because we're having a hard time? There's any background all the time. The real truck people probably have trouble too.
If they don't come in with a proof of they don't come in with a B-10 proof of part A, they say,
A little closer. There you go.
do they forfeit?
Yes. The question is, if they don't come in with a B-10 proof of claim form, do they forfeit? Yes, they do. I guess you're going to have to cut that thing off. But yes, if they don't come in and offer proof of claim by doing the B-10 form, and that's signed under by notary under penalty of perjury, then they have to forfeit. If they forfeited their claim, they acquiesced. But they can't come and try to collect it anymore. That's exactly right. You win. Bottom line, that's what the law says. If they don't try to come after you with a claim, then they have no right to a claim. The reason they don't do that is because they don't have standing. And they know they don't have standing because of the fraud. And if somebody signs that proof of claim form, then you can put them in jar. They don't really like to do that. Where I got the trustee in our case, and the bank president who signed the claim for the bank, gets a criminal charge.
Sold my property, even though.
The trustee?
No, they let the trustee. Trustee is because they won't give me back title to the property, so I don't know how to go after the bank because
Go after the trustee.
I have a trustee on the bank.
Sure. They were in collusion together.
No.
Okay. But the mortgage foreclosure, if you're in a court case, it's fine. Just do negative affirmative right in a court case. They're going to. Yeah.
You have this straight on the pay.
Have to, if you can, and I do recommend doing it. That gives you another count on your negative affirmative, which is worth $120 million.
If somebody else
What's
issues
going
a
on
bond
there?
for you, file a negative affirmative.
Bystander.
And how do you respond to
But you don't have to respond at all.
someone else?
Everyone, the cases between them and the don't respond, they do with you if they discharge it with a note. Think of it like this. You came over and said, okay, I'm about to lose my car, Tim, I need $12,000 to pay it off. Can you write a check for it? And I write a check for it and pay it off for you, and even though I got a lawful check, they accept it, they process it, they don't give you credit. And off of your notice, off of mine, because they took my money and didn't give you credit on the account. That's up to me to collect that, not you. You don't have any involvement with it at all. It's the person that wrote the note that has involvement. That's how I became a party in interest. Now, you're still a party in interest because you've got the car, but the person that did the note is the one that has to do the paperwork. Yes. Party in it. Were you the trustee? Yeah, sure. It's all on the property if you're the trustee. Yes.
So if you're already in,
Okay.
but it's stopped because you stand.
Oh, did they send you the, is this with a bank or mortgage company? What you guys need to do is you need to call this 800 number. What I'm trying to do now is put people together across the country or deal with housing. And you're out there all alone. You don't need to be alone. Next people that are together. So if you don't mind sharing your information with somebody that's doing the same bank, we're going to put together a database. We're working on that database already about people that are doing similar things across the country. And if you're willing to work with other people that are trying to bring an action against this bank, and I highly recommend you do, all of you come together and liquidate the bank. Because if you get 50 or 100 of you guys, Deutsche Bank has already been hit real hard already. Already pretty hard.
And you said talk to Jack on
Yeah, and just to go on the database, you probably need to talk to Warren because he keeps up with the database. He's doing that. And what we'll do is, as we group people together by banks, we'll get you together, and you can even go regions when we get enough people. Like you've got so many of them here in California doing it, so many of them in Nebraska, so many, and it's the same bank. Then what all you need to do is pick one federal district bankruptcy court anywhere in the country. District bankruptcy court, and everybody file, and they can mail it in. They don't have to appear. They can send. Everybody can file for $125 and fill out 4 forms. You file and force Chapter 7. If they get 50 or 100 of these things on the same, somebody's going to be in trouble. Now our goal is, and I want you to keep this in mind. All we want them to do is start honoring our notes like the law says they're supposed to do. And if they don't, then we need to shut them down, take the banks and open them up ourselves. But then, because their resources will be our resources.
They're bankrupt.
They're bankrupt.
So what resources can we possibly get?
You own the building.
Okay.
You own the stocks, the bonds, the retirement funds, any property that they own, all the houses that they got in foreclosure. You own it now.
Bankruptcy happens immediately?
No, it doesn't happen immediately. You get your liens perfected, and you get a group of you together, and you file this Chapter 7, then they're going to have to foreclose on this bank and take their assets and give you their assets. They'll issue a writ of execution, and you'll own the bank's buildings. You think somebody like a Bank of America has some real estate that's valuable? Have you ever been to? Have you ever been down in the corner of like Miami or in Panama City, Florida, or Tampa, and look at the Bank of America buildings? Yeah. And some of the other banks? Yeah. They got the biggest buildings in town. That's prime real estate.
I'll take the Palisade train there. In the ear cleaning studio.
How do they look at this? The building's going to be there. And when you file that paperwork in the bankruptcy, if they liquidate anything within 2 years, they go to this.
One quick question. Do we have to know where their stuff's at? They'll make them tell us in bank.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to locate it.
No, I'm talking about.
You think that's
I'm talking about like the officers' houses and the.
Yeah, you need all the information
houses.
together on that, yes.
Stuff like that.
Well, take it in Germany. We're not supposed to vacate. Yes, they are. They're just interesting. They're also the guys that handle all the IRS's accounts. Find out that most all of these banks now are tied to the Fed. Actually, they're all owned by the same people mostly, and they're all tied to the International Monetary Fund. So the reason you got to have a group of people to do this is because if 2 or 3 go in there, they're going to try to ignore it by railroad. They can't over it up to 50 or 100 or 1,000. Just can't. Numbers is what makes us strong. Take them yourself.
I guess what I'm asking is,
There are some local banks that are not. Credit unions generally are not, but that's a good resource to have.
the same with the,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Some of them, credit unions, I'm not sure, they don't have the same relationship as a bank. Banks know how to do it, like their real estate. The bottom line is we can, if we work together, folks, we can do this. It really isn't numbers to make this work. But a large bunch of people, probably more than like a problem for them that they can't deal with. Because when they get 50 forms all mailed in within the same week, the bankruptcy, forced liquidation. Any of y'all know about the stock market? What happens when that happens? How much stock? It's going to go to nearly nothing. Especially with the banking climate that we have today. All of a sudden, they don't have any assets anymore. You own their assets. So, we were in that position. We got 100 secured party creditors that own the assets of Bank of America, Wachovia Bankers, or Wells Fargo Bank, or all of the above. They not want to talk. I think they will absolutely want to talk.
A little bit is that are able to actually put I could use something like Marshall.
Possible.
Because,
They'll be in charge.
But would you declare something like Marshall Days?
They do, then we'll have to go to the International Court of International Claims to resolve our settlement. This is international commerce. If they allow, if they were faced with this choice of going under and losing all their assets or honoring the notes that we send and making money, that's a difficult choice. But see, the reason you need to take on these big banks is because the Fed is the one holding us up. You take on 3 or 4 of these big banks, the Fed's going to have to pay attention. Have to. They don't have any choice. So, and this is what you got to do to win. If you're going to win, and I'm going to. Call that number right there. Talk to Warren and tell him you want me on the list. Tell him what banks you're dealing with. Negative remarks on them, and that's where we're going to start. Warren. We'll keep that list. So the bottom line is this. If you know of other people in your area that are doing the same thing, call that number 2. And it can be nationwide. Y'all can all send your stuff to one hit. And you need to coordinate this as a group. They need to hit all at one time. Yes.
This group would all have done their negative affirmance and also got the confirmation.
Right. We're going to show you the process. How you need to get ready to do that. Put through that with you tomorrow. But that's just on the mortgage. But there's a lot of other things. What about a criminal case? Do anything with a negative affirmance in a criminal case? There. I've had several businesses. Had a guy home just a few weeks ago from Michigan. He was really excited. Turn. Yeah. He said, man, he said, I never knew the power of a negative affirmance until early this summer. I've been fighting for 4 years. Charge that I was accused of that I didn't do. He said, I've offered evidence. I can prove that I didn't do it, but they don't want to hear it. They want to prosecute me. So I heard about it. He said, I heard your Maryville seminar. And he said, I wanted, he called me prior, and he said, now did you negative affirm that you told me? He called me and asked me a couple of things, and I told him. Negative affirm it, and he perfected it. He said that when I walked into court the last time, I walked in, the judge called the case, and he said, he threw his hands out like this and said, stop right there. Go away. Leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. This case is over. Yeah, the judge did that. That was his tradition, to get rid of the case. Go away. And he said, they didn't realize how powerful this stuff was. Talk to him. The judge understood that you understand powerful stuff. Had a buddy down there in North Carolina, had 4 criminal counts, was looking at a long time in prison. He's a good guy. He never did anything wrong. He had 4 criminal counts, and an ATF officer who was a next door neighbor was trying to give him a lot of trying to get revenge. All back firearms there. So, the guy, the ATF officer's father lived next door to Tom, and Tom would work on the old fellow was getting old, he would bring his farm equipment over to Tom's shop. Tom was a lot younger. He worked on it, weld on it, or fix something on farm equipment from time to time. But one day, the old guy died, and he had 2 or 3 pieces of farm. So he just died one day. So the son, who was an ATF officer, came over there, and he was looking around. He inherited everything he thought. He didn't inherit the property and the house. The farm equipment didn't belong to the farm and the house. It belonged to his uncle, which was in partnership with his father. Uncle owned all of it, and he had legal papers to show it. Came down there one day, all of a sudden, Tom was leaving his house, and he saw all these cop cars going by, deputy cars going by. And Sorrel lives out in the country. He said, "What all that is going on down there?" So he turned around and he goes back down, and they're in his house. What was doing in my house? And his wife standing there by the door, couldn't move, all this kind of stuff. His kids terrorized. And they were searching his house, bogus warrant. The ATF officer had told them, they stole him this farm equipment. He knew that he didn't steal it, but taking revenge on it for an argument they had had several years before. Told him that he had stolen that and he wanted to prosecute him for it. They came down and arrested Tom and took him to jail because they found, I think, 3 pieces of farm out there at the shop. We were working on it from Mr. Watson next door. So they didn't think much about it. I mean, it made them mad. But all this hogwash. We would just go down there and take Clyde Watson, which was the brother, the surviving heir of all the equipment, business, said, "Well, Tom, that's not a problem. I'll just go get my paperwork to show that I am the heir to the property because I was the co-owner of the business, and so the surviving owner automatically is the heir. Business. All the property is in the name of the business." He had income tax records. He had bills of sale and receipts and everything to prove that that stuff was lawfully his. He goes down to the hearing with Tom and said, he asked me about it, and I said, "Well, shoot, just go take it down there. Probably just dismiss the thing. Somebody just got overreacted." So he went down to the hearing that day and presented all of the evidence before the court. And said, "This needs to be dismissed." Attorney said, "I'm not dismissing this case. I'm going to prosecute him for stealing farm equipment." The judge kind of got into it and said, "Well, he's got proof right here that the property belongs to this man." She said, "He got his computer." So she continued the case. Bad idea. So he called me up and said, "I can't believe they did this and this." I looked at his documentation. I mean, he had IRS forms to prove it. They've been itemizing the equipment. Had serial numbers on it. Descriptions, names and descriptions and serial numbers on it. So anyway, I said, "I can't believe it." And I said, "Well, we're going to have to do a negative averment." So he said, "Well, where are you at?" And I said, "Well, I'm halfway across the country." I said, "But I'll tell you what, on my way home, I'll swing by and spend the day with you, and we'll get it fixed." Wrote a negative averment, filed in court. Judge got it. They set a hearing. They had to set a hearing. That judge recused himself from gave it to another judge. This judge brought it to court. First hearing. They asked for dismissal, and they wouldn't. The prosecutor said, "We're not going to dismiss this case. We're going to prosecute you and put you in prison." There wasn't even a crime. I said, "I don't know what to do. Man, I'm looking at 30, 40 years in prison. And I've done a thing." Welcome to the injustice system. What am I going to do? I said, "Just stick to your guns and do the negative averment." Process this judge. He got all the paperwork and decided he didn't want any more to do with this. He had to a brand new judge. 3 or 4 hearings, and this finally they got this one judge. The judge looked at the case, and they testified. Went to hearing. It was interesting because we had invoked Haynes and Kerner, and Haynes and Kerner is an old precedent case that requires the judge to help you after the procedure because you're not an attorney. So he didn't have an attorney. Tom was asking questions of the witnesses that were on the asking the questions. It's so funny. But he would ask the question, and the judge said, the judge saw through what was going on with the prosecutor. So he helped him ask his questions to the witnesses to get the response, and so the judge dismissed the case. But it was too late. Negative averment had been cured and profound. They owe him $7 billion. Taking their stuff. He's already sent them the time, but he's in the AL set last week, and he's going to take their stuff. He'll liquidate it. And when he gets finished, the ATF officer that inherited the property next door, 160 acres of property in a nice, beautiful, about 4,000 square foot, 2-story house, I'm going to own it. And he's going to take his house in town. Oh yeah, he's going to take care of the DA and attorney, which, hell yeah, right. And he also has criminal charges pending for perjury because he lied in his own record. And he required him to waive his immunity before he told a lie and he got caught. So he's also facing criminal charges as well as being a law enforcement officer. Guess what's going to happen to him? He's going to lose both of his houses and his job. And possibly go to prison. Well, it's, what can I say? The boy knew he was doing wrong. Asked to correct it. He refused. Gave him several opportunities to repent. He was asked. Now it's going to cost him everything. That's the way this stuff works. Be aware that when you do this, it has some tough consequences to it. Some because they just absolutely are wicked and they need to be judged, brought down to earth. Thought that he can't abuse the law.
What a great signal that would be to the rest of his buddies at ATF.
Well, even the deputies that arrested Tom came out and apologized. They said,
well, they had a false complaint.
And he said, well, why did you guys come out and raid my house like that? They said, because the ATF officer filed a complaint against you, said that you was using automatic weapons out here. Fine. He don't have any automatic weapons. Told us to find one. But that's the reason that they came out and did the raid, because they were told that he had automatic weapons out there and that he was dangerous. This man is a retired UPS driver, has never had as much as a traffic ticket, has been a productive member of his community his whole life, has never been arrested until that day. Never even had any more. He said he's had a couple of speed tickets his whole life, that's it. That's the worst thing he's ever done in his whole life. Good man, honorable man. Then this is why we do what we do. Step in, because there are people in prison. If that man hadn't known, if he would have hired an attorney, because it's the first thing he said, should I hire an attorney? I said, for God's sake, don't do that. I said, you'll go to prison if you hire an attorney. He said, well, I don't know anything about court. I said, you don't need to. Do what I tell you as I tell you, and you told me the other day, he said, I am so thankful that I listened to you. I would have went to prison. If I had an attorney, I would have went to prison. I said, yeah, you would. They probably would just slap me on the wrist and gave you 3 to 5 years. But prison, guaranteed. That's what they were after. The reason is because he had the stuff. He got assets. He got money. Wanted it. And they would have taken it. When the game is played. Not if fraud is involved, but otherwise, not when fraud is involved. But this ATF officer will lose everything, and he probably will lose his job, and he may even lose his freedom. Don't prosecute him. He's on the wrong bunch this time. The reason we need to prosecute him is to show him that he can't do this to somebody else, because he will. He's of that mentality that he will. Another type of averment we have is an administrative. Flag or lending institution in the promissory note. Any of y'all be interested in that? Got a bunch of people doing it. I've actually got 2 administrative IRS CID agents that this. What was funny though, and I'm still trying to figure this out. Denise caught this, I didn't even catch it. But we were talking about this issue, and I've done the negative averment. What it appears to be that the day after they received my negative averment, they zeroed the $300,000 account. Or it was $300,000, and even though they told me they didn't honor my note, I sent the negative averment in, and the debt got zeroed. Well, now they're saying, well, it's not zeroed over here at this office, but we got the receipt that says it is. Oh, yeah. They called it a check. Isn't that what I called it? They called it another check. It's kind of an interesting thing, and we're still working on that. Because they didn't send me the receipt, they sent it to the other people. They are already in dishonor on my negative averment. It's too late. After the 21 days. So they're done. It doesn't matter now if they even zero the account. I can still take the stuff to the CID agents and zero the account. They dishonored my note, but I'm honoring it within 30 days. And I talked to the man, and he was very nasty. Very good. I called him up. I said, "This CID agent." I told him what? I said, no, that's not the name. Say, funny. Understand you had to discharge the debt. You're the one that sent this old note thing to me. Yeah, I said, yeah, that's right. Said, I want to know why the note's not zero. Problem with the note. Oh, this is bogus and frivolous. I said, usually you guys use that word awful lot, bogus and frivolous. I said, are you an attorney? No, I'm not an attorney. send this over and have it reviewed by your legal staff? I don't have to do that. I know when something's bogus or frivolous. I said, well, do you have a copy of the law that says that? Well, what are you, some kind of attorney? I said, I'm a law merchant. Well, what's that? I said, well, it's kind of hard to explain to people like you. I said, I'm a person attorneys don't like fool. You're not an attorney. I said, no, I'm not an attorney. I said, but I know. He said, well, how do you know it's legal? I said, because I can read it. I said, I want you to send me a copy of the law that gives you permission to dishonor my note. I'm not sending you nothing. I said, well, then the law says that you've got to return my note within 30 days. Notice of deficiency. Tell me why you dishonored it. I'm not sending you nothing. I'm not returning that note. I'm going to keep it. That's it. So I sent the negative averment. A few days later, something happened because it shows a zero balance on that taxes. It was, I don't have over $300,000 of penalties. The first bill we got several months before that was $2 million. They attack on penalties, I'm sure. But it says zero taxes on that 2007 year. Well, so, but they waited too late. So they're still, because they didn't answer in time. We might win and get the thing zero possibly. One says it is, and one says it ain't. So I don't know what will not be zeros yet. I've seen one department do something and the other one not know what's going on. I read. They can't even keep up with their own. The bottom line is this. It doesn't matter if they zero it or not, I'm going to come after their stuff. They committed a crime by doing that. No matter if they honor it now, it's not even relevant. They only have 30 days. Now, I've got to send my notices. It's secured, but not perfected yet, and I'll perfect the judgment. We'll final judgment. And you know what's going to really be beautiful about it? They live in Denver, and I'm going to do a Chapter 7 liquidation in Florida. They got to respond to Florida, not to Denver. They do that to us.
This guy, because that's one of our processes.
Because they got bombarded and they quit doing it.
Well, I understand that. But this guy, remember Tom Wilco, he was in Denver with me? This guy came to his house. He was this guy.
From there, his name is from there. Yeah, I've had some deals. I got another friend that had a deal with him, and he's going to lose his power. Yeah, you don't see that that's whether you're ignoring it or not. Yeah, right now, I don't think I could find anything in Alabama. Because I own the Middle District bankruptcy court, and I don't think they like me very much. So I'm going to go to a neutral place like Florida and file instead. Right now, I don't want to put anything into that court right now.
So are we going to talk about that tomorrow?
We're going to show you step by step.
Some alternative to 39, 49?
Oh, yes. Well, that's this negative averment.
Well, yeah, I know that.
It's going to balance the book. Okay. And so, what I'm going to do is liquidate them in Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Florida down there. And that is Florida with anything they want to do. Any kind of defense, they'll have to go down there. Now, when I get my order of liquidation, then I'm going to request a writ of execution. So a judge in this court, job is to give me the writ of execution. The writ of execution is going to take it out to the sheriff in Denver, and I'll get their bank accounts. Probably won't be very much. Vehicles, homes, all the furniture. I'll even get my diamond ring. That's what my lien says. It's that easy. The law says we can do this. The whole process is going to take just a few months to do. I don't know how long the bankruptcy will take. Probably not very long. It's an open and shut deal, pretty much. Because I've got the lien. I've got a default judgment. And how many of y'all know what a default judgment is? You ever read Rule 55, Title 28, Rule 5556? Title 28 of the United States Code, Rule 5556, talks about judgments. A default judgment can't be challenged because they defaulted. They gave up their rights to defend it. That's powerful. That's what we get. Summary judgment can be challenged because there's no evidence required in a summary judgment to bring a summary judgment, so therefore it can be challenged. A default judgment, you have to prove it. Well, how do we prove it? Notary affidavit and the United States Postal Service, our two independent third-party witnesses, prove that they didn't respond. And if they didn't respond to acquiesce, that's the same as a legal signature, and they went into default by acquiescence. So I got a contract. No disagreement. Can't even disagree with it. Default judgment. It's better than shooting fish in a barrel. It works that way. The law is very specific. They're dumb enough, see, they didn't respond. The rest of it's just a formality. That's too late now. They have exhausted their administrative remedy. Exhausted their administrative remedy, that means there is no other action can be taken in that case.
What do I see?
Well, I see that today. Because the rest of it's a formality. Now I send them 3 notices, Monday held set, and I bring them into a Chapter 7 liquidation. Think that's going to get those guys' attention?
Yeah.
I guarantee you it's going to get their attention.
For the bank?
Yeah.
But for some, are you less than 3?
Yes, you can. And if you got more than and I forget, I don't remember, I think it's $1 million or more, I think that you can do it with just one.
Under $1 million?
Under $1 million, there's some limitations. Some cases it takes a minimum of 3, depending on the amount of debt, and I don't know all the details on that. But Jack handles that part. But I think that the limit is $1 million. If you're a single creditor with more than $1 million debt against that person, then you can do it yourself without help. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bless a couple of my friends, and I'm just going to give them a couple $1 million apiece because and we're just going to go and liquidate. I don't care about the money. I just give a couple of friends a little bit. What's that now? Get that from the notary.
Right, coming from California.
Okay, real important. If you can't get a notary, you can do 3 witnesses. Common law witnesses has the power of 1 notary. I would put all 3 of their return addresses on a cover sheet, put it in there. If you want to respond with these addresses. No, they don't have to do it. It's witnesses. Well, it doesn't matter. You put all 3 of their return addresses in there. That's up to the court what they want to do. If they won't, they're not going to respond anyway. If they do, it's going to be a pitiful attempt. Because if you've got a real case, and I will caution you now, don't make up stuff. Make sure you've got a legitimate claim. Don't go out there and make up claims. You'll go to jail. And you should. You've got a real claim. Got a real claim, and there's been a fraud committed, which in 99.999% of the cases it is, they can't answer. Absolutely cannot, because we require them to answer with documented evidence. If they don't have any evidence, how are they going to answer? The law says we can do that. You got a claim against me, you got to prove it. Show it to me. If you had an account down at the local Ace Hardware, well, some of you guys in business probably do. I did. Years. Now I had 2 garages in Florida and a car business in Florida for about 10 years. I had local accounts, and we have all these accounts. You go down and you buy auto parts or stuff down at Ace Hardware, and several accounts like that for them. And when the end of the month came up, I checked my bills. But sometimes I would get bills that were astronomically more than I thought they should be. And so I would get out and go check my receipts. And sometimes I would find that one time I had a bill that $1,000 that I owed. So my book got $18,000 more than the receipt. So I just go down to my local auto parts, and I found out that some joker from another shop in another town was charging in my account. So I was responsible to pay his debts. Signed the tickets, they knew who it was. Giving them my number. But it wasn't my responsibility to pay his debts. Now, so when I went down there to the auto parts, I said, well, let me see the tickets. And so they gave me the tickets. I said, well, this guy's, I knew who he was. I said, he signed this. Oh, we posted him on the wrong $1,000 worth in 1 month. Yeah, it was an error. It really was, because these are honest people. I've done this error. They had a new guy, and he just did stuff on the wrong account. Oh, you do it. You basically, it was just an innocent mistake. But so I went down and talked to the owner of the business, and they straightened it out. But what the banks are doing to you is they're doing that to you, and you're paying it. Because you're not asking about it. You're not saying, well, show me the bill. Paying $18,000 debt down to Ace Hardware that you know. Well, why are you doing it to the banks and to these other companies? Then we do that because of our ignorance, because we just don't know. Now you know. This honor bond and promissory note can get really good. These are good negative reversals. Man, that's an airtight thing. They cannot get out of it. Another administrative negative reversal we have is for a clerk who has reported an unlawful lien. Now, how many of y'all would be interested in that? Now, how many of you know that it takes an order from a district court for a lien to be recorded? They have to have an order from a judge's order from a district court. You can't do it any other way.
Is the UCC
No, a UCC1 is not a lien, it is a notice of lien. Does not create the lien, it just notifies you that there may be a lien.
Asking these questions for
Yeah, that's fine.
Like on C,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, that's a good point.
And now, do you have an example?
Well, I've got a format, but it's not listed just like that, but we can add it.
If that's clarified, that'd be easier.
All right, well, now, if that is true, and that's a good point. When you're doing these negative affirmatives, realize that under the law, respondee superior requires the organization to be responsible for what any member of the organization does. So that means that if you have a bank person over here that does something that takes money out of your account, for instance, the bank manager over here takes money out of your account without a proper court order, that means not only is that person responsible, but the president, the vice president, the board of directors, and that bank is responsible. Take the EIN number of the bank, the personal property of all the board of directors, all responsible. You have to have an order from the district court. First of all, it's an order. Order.
And not notice that.
Not notice. I mean, it will be an order. A lien order. And it will be signed by a judge. If there is, it will be at the end of the hearing.
Yeah.
They have the due process right to do that. Yes. That means they have to appear in a court hearing and petition that judge to give them the lien for some reason. Yes.
What about when an IRS agent goes?
Oh, I love those. We got one for that. But not just the clerk, but also the agent. Yes. We can take a short break, about 10 minutes.